that have people think that leaders are immune from pressure, challenges, depression, and so on and so forth. So once there's a breakdown, they begin to attack the leader or begin to say things that are not nice, not taking into consideration that there might be personal challenges that the leader is going through, and thank you for showing up tonight. Now, I want to now ask, what is the responsibility of a leader regarding the wellness of his team?
That is I'll call that a heavy duty. That's a very loaded question. Permit me to break it down. The first part is, as a leader, my opinion, you have to look out for your own well-being, first of all, because an unhealthy leader will transmit bad energy to the workforce. Number one, you're not as effective as you need to be as a leader. And then number two, you start to transfer your aggression and your frustrations and your poor feeling onto your staff. And at the end of the day, it's just not a good story. So a good leader's got to look out for himself. It's very common to find leaders pushing themselves beyond what you might call acceptable limits. They work long hours, they don't eat so great. I mean, they're making all this money. The leader is usually the highest paid guy in the office, but he's probably the one eating the least, taking the least breaks. He's working all day, all night. He's the last to leave the office, is the first in the morning. There are many organizations where the leaders are actually modeling what I call bad behaviors, and they're not looking out for themselves. Leaders usually are pioneers. Many times they're pioneers. They are doers. They focus on results. And so the motivation to deliver means that they typically have higher motivation than the people that they're leading. They want to put in more hours than anybody else because they want to, the results that they're looking for are something that affects them personally. It goes beyond just being free. So most times you will see leaders pushing themselves to the limits. And when they do that, they're at risk of not only falling below par in terms of their own performance, but also starting to, it's very common to find leaders get aggravated, they get irritable in the workplace because they haven't slept enough. You were in the office till 12 midnight and you're back there at 6, So you probably had 4 hours of sleep. Well, sleep is a very, very important component to being able to think straight. And if you think about your cognitive activity, the average leader is presiding over meetings, he's giving direction, he's setting the stage for strategy and all these things.
Yeah.
We all know that a clear mind helps you to be more effective in these types of settings, right? It's just like exercise. I mean, that is a prime thing that every leader should do. I remember being in situations in the workplace where I'm in a really bad stress situation. For instance, I had a well where I was a superintendent many years ago, and we're drilling a well, and we got to a point and we couldn't go beyond. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of technical detail, but basically, there were technical problems that we were not able to fathom. I started consulting guys in the US. I started consulting my manager in the office. We were trying to solve this conundrum, and it was a dangerous situation. The rig that I was supervising was at risk of catching flames and getting out of hand. So it was a very stressful and very intellectually demanding time. And I remember being forced to go and exercise. I remember taking my lunch breaks before I would go to eat lunch because I was so tense and so stressed out. I would go and take a run. I'll run for about 30 minutes, go take a shower, go eat, and come back to the office. And I felt refreshed every time. Exercise, produces endorphins in our brain.
Yeah.
It really helps your cognitive clarity. If you do exercise in the morning before you go to work, man, I tell you, you'll be ×2 of your normal self. So leaders need to be aware of the things that can help them to be more effective. So I've talked about impact, the importance of your own personal well-being as a leader. Then, maybe more importantly, the people you lead, the army of personnel that are supposed to deliver the results for you. You're not the guy that's going to do the work. A leader, a manager, a supervisor, okay, we're all leaders, really. We're all leaders, but I'm speaking specifically about managers and supervisors, people who direct the workforce. Then they're not the ones that do the work. The workforce are the hands-on people. They're the ones that actually get the work done. And for people like that to be in a positive state of mind, there's some very, very basic things. Before we start talking about their health, let's talk about the impact you as a leader have on them. Employees generally model the style and the habits of their leader if he's an inspirational leader. This is a little bit of a paradox, or it's an irony because it's kind of opposite. A tyrannical leader is usually despised by the staff. So they're trying not to be like him. In fact, everybody's saying, he's evil, he's wicked, he's a slave driver and all this and all that, right? A leader who is loved, that inspires, right? Typically, his followers, whether you're a church pastor or you are a captain of industry or you're a professor in a university or whatever leader you are, if you are an inspirational figure, people look up to you, then it is very likely that the followers are going to try to model your life, the way you do things. When they're thinking about, when they find themselves in situations, they'll think, what would Professor X do in this situation? So if you have poor habits, if you're working in the office around the clock, your employees, guess what? They're also, denying themselves of work-life balance. They're like paparazzi. You got to consider that employees are like paparazzi. They're watching your every move. If you're a leader, you're under the microscope, whether you know it or not. And everything you do, especially if you're an inspirational leader, they want to copy. They want to talk like you. They want to mimic your style when you're presenting. They want to live the kind of life you're living. So if you have bad eating habits, you eat a lot of crap. If you work late in the office all hours, they're going to do the same. Many times you go to organizations and you find the staff, they're all hanging around. There's no work to do, but because the guys in the office, they're also in the office. They want to mimic the boss. And sometimes they're trying to show, that they're working also. Work-life balance is very important. I advocate from a health standpoint, a leader should be asking his staff to close, go home, continue tomorrow. Definitely, there will be times when there are deadlines to be met. There's increased workload. There are situations that come where staff need to be there crunching, but it should not become a culture that your staff are working till all hours and then they're back in the morning.